What is this one? Morgue?
Yeah, working in the morgue.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. It's spooky season, Bex.
Okay. All right.
Wait. How do I look dead? Okay.
Yeah. Cute.
Oh, wait. Yeah? Yeah, okay.
Okay. Hi, and welcome to the pod, guys, ghouls, banshees, and she-devils of all kinds. I'm your host, Rebecca.
I am your other host, Jackie, and this is another week of We're Experts Now, and it's
Spooky.
Happy spooky season, Bex.
Oh, thank you. I do love a spooky season. As someone who was raised not allowed to go trick or treating or read Harry Potter, I delight in the occult and all the mystical realms.
Well, I don't like anything scary because I'm a total wimp, and I don't like scary movies. Don't jump out in front of me, like none of
Mm.
that. But I do just like I love the history, and we're gonna go over it in a future episode. But we're gonna go on some histories of Halloween and Samhain, and so that's for the future. But right now, you've been doing anything ridiculous lately, Bex?
Is that how you say Sam Hain?
Yeah, Samhain.
Hmm. That's gonna change my life. That's gonna really help me out because I've been saying Sam Hain.
But it's Samhain, okay? It's gotta be Samhain.
Okay, if you ain't sowing, you ain't plowing. You know what I
It's
mean?
so true. So true. The Irish really particularly felt that in the 1800s.
Actually, this is just a little tangent, but on my dating profile, I just went full spooky girl. And so, like, on my Hinge prompt, that's like, I feel most supported when, and then you fill in the blanks. I said, I feel most supported when a blood oath is sworn in my name under a harvest moon. And
Yes.
I feel, or like, the way to win me over is releasing my spirit from a cursed amulet. I
This
just
is
went
actually how we founded the podcast. Was the blood oath. Yeah, didn't you
That's
remember
right.
that?
Yeah, we did it, the whole thing.
1 year anniversary to our blood oath. Love you, girl.
Mm,
Love you.
wow, I feel it. Um, my amateur alert this week is I am in a sort of deal with the devil, if you will. I am a vape queen. I remember when vapes came out, I mocked so hard. I made fun of the guys doing their smoke tricks and their little juicy fruit USB sticks.
I have never heard that.
Well, that's because I made it up. And I am just hooked. I honestly I feel like I'm better off just going back to cigarettes because I'm not a heavy cigarette smoker. I'm like a I'll lose a pack before I finish a pack kind of girl. Like I've got it in the glove box, and that's actually where this story circles back to, is because I keep a pack of cigarettes in the glove box. I don't smoke in my car, but it's like maybe I'll like come home and like grab a cigarette after, a night out or something like that, or just like it's in the glove box. It's not like in my purse. And so I've been vaping a lot and I've been trying to quit, and it was like every time I would try to quit, someone would give me a vape. And it was like the universe trying to test me. And there was a time actually, which I think technically now they're like outlawed in some way, but I don't notice any difference. Like I could still buy them everywhere. I don't know if they just have to sell the stock they have and they can't get new ones, or they have to change because they're flavored. I don't know. But I got a vape recently and I'm like trying to taper off. So, which I honestly know that the best way is cold turkey, but I always tell myself I can have willpower. So I like put my vape in my car, and I was like, and for a day, that worked. I didn't think about it. I was like, I didn't even need this. I just take an extra B vitamin. We're good. And then one day it just that call was so strong. I went out I had to, put clothes on because I live in a neighborhood with like fancy people and they don't
Judge
like
you.
me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Trotted out to the car and now I'm back. But today is the day that the vape is starting to taste like burnt hair. There's it's like when it's all out of juice, but you'd still keep charging it and using it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it away in like a dumpster, because I've pulled a vape out of my own trash can before, so it's
Okay.
gotta be fully removed,
Okay.
and that's where I'm at.
Well, good luck to you. I was a smoker for many years. I still have a cigarette every once in a while when I drink. I don't drink that often, so it's pretty easy to not have the cigarettes. But it was hard and it's habitual. So good luck to you. I do find that cigarettes are easier to quit. I've never got into vapes, but in my mind, cigarettes are easier to quit because they smell disgusting and
Yes, it is that.
you're so disgusted by yourself that like, and then like you tend to smoke more of a cigarette in a row, right? Like you smoke a whole cigarette or half a cigarette, whereas like you take one puff of a vape here, one puff of a vape there, right? You really reek after a whole cigarette, right?
That's
And
exactly it. When I smoke a cigarette,
gross.
I'm considering my whole day. I'm like, am I going
Mhm.
to work out? I should do that first. Am I going
Yeah.
to see someone? I should know if how the smell is going to be. I can't do it inside. I personally carry a little portable ashtray with me so I can ash and like put my butt in there. I never throw a butt on the ground. But with the vape, I'm like, I'm inside. I'm at a party. I'm at a venue. I'm in the
Mhm.
bathroom, wherever. It's, you could just toot on your little vape anywhere you like, and it's a problem.
Well, I say this to young people all the time. Don't start smoking. It's awful. Like, as someone who did it for years, and I know it seems cool and all these other things, but honestly, never do it. It's disgusting. It is so hard to quit. The only way I was able to quit smoking cigarettes was when I moved into a new apartment. I just didn't let myself smoke there because I'm very habitual. And so
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, okay, you can only smoke while you drink here, right? And then I don't drink that often, so it became very easy for me to be like, "Oh, well, I've only smoked once this month because I only drank once this month." And so that was like how it got me. And then I'm also the only time I'm smoking is when I'm drinking, so I wake up the next day hungover smelling like cigarettes, and
Ugh.
I'm like, "Oh, gross." So, young people don't start. Um
Well, now that we're getting into the gross and the gory, what are we working with today, Jackie?
Oh, we're doing spooky ooky season. You know, I've been talking about this all like I planned this month out for a long time, people. Like, just so you know, the pod does not just magically come to be. I do a lot of
It does
administrative
to me.
work
I just wake up and there's schedule and calendar holds. It's
and
great.
content written. Yeah, like it's great for you, but I put a lot of work. So I was really excited for this month. So we started out with tarot, we got that, and now we're scooting back into spooky season and we're heading to the morgue. Right? I know I'm a little scared.
I see dead bodies.
I see dead people, I know. So we are in particular gonna find out what it's like working in the morgue. What do you
Oh
do?
my
What
god,
do
I'm
you
so
not
excited.
do? Is there proper etiquette with dead bodies? Like, do you not put
Mm.
your lunch on them? Is that rude? Right?
I have
So
thoughts already.
I mean, I think, and then there's like chemicals. I don't want to get too much into the gory ori because, as we know, I am a wimp. So, but I am still interested, like how that works as much as I can handle. So we're
I'm really excited for our guest. I don't know who this person will be, but I just like, I feel like I have an instant admiration for. Well, let me ask this: what is the gender of our guest?
This is a she,
Okay,
and
great. Then this all applies, because I feel like this is what it all hinges on. Like, men who are morticians, it's a red flag. Women who
yeah,
are
yeah,
morticians, I'm like, you're literally my hero. You're literally doing the Lord's work, and like you have like something in you, like a calling, and like you're different, and you like are smart because it's a science, but it's also like an art, but like also it's like spiritual in nature. It's sort of like a kind of death doula. I mean, death doula is a specific thing that's different, but it's
oh
like
yeah.
you're like, I don't know, there's something that feels like true crime, like you are helping heal the world in this very essential role. And then my other line of thinking is like, there is this stigma. I mean, I was gonna say stigma against death, and I think it's like there should be stigma and taboo and sort of like boundary around death, but like it's such a beautiful part of like the bargain of life. Like that's what you have to go through. And like I think there has been like a cultural role in in our human history of like the death carers, and like I think it's traditionally been women who like care for a dead body, and like there is nothing that like necessarily fundamentally alters a dead body to make it suddenly like it's full of bacteria. Like it has the bacteria it already has, it has the diseases it already has. It's just like a state of mind, and there is like a beautiful respectful thing in like caring for that dead body.
I 100%. I think all of that's absolutely true. I will say the girl who's coming on, I met her, I totally love her. She has been great fun to get to know and become friends with. So I'm excited for you to meet her. What is also exciting about this is I will give a hint or just lay it out is next week's episode is going to be a travel episode for you and I in Salem, Massachusetts. And this friend is
Yeah.
actually going to come with us on that journey. So she might have some
Oh.
little insights from that city as well. But yes, I think you're totally right on the respect and taking care of the bodies in the morgues. And you were kind of hitting on I have a little funny story on the, male versus female working in that industry. And I had an old roommate, and she dated this guy who worked at the morgue. And apparently, I guess he was kind of weird.
No.
And apparently, like one night, he was like, "Oh, I like it. Your hands are so cold when I hold them. It
No.
reminds me of work."
Also, red flag that anyone is turned on by work.
Or cold hands. Like,
Yeah.
like, you know what? Like,
True.
either
Yeah.
what. Don't touch. Like, I literally, like, if someone has cold hands, do not fucking touch me. I would never be like, come near me with Bex. You're looking, you made a sideways.
Well,
Do you
no,
like
I
cold
was just
hands?
no, I was just thinking,
The
I was just
cold,
having a little
clammy
sad girl
hands?
moment because I was like, oh well, then you'll love these hot hands. But I'm like, I'm more of like I'm a sweaty Betty. Like
I am too, yeah.
I can't hold hands because I'm always sweating. Like
If I'm warm, yeah, I am sweating as well, and I don't like. That's why, like, I am a furnace at night, and guys try to spoon me, and they're like, "Oh, I'm taking up all your heat," and I'm like, "No, I'm just sweating," and then my butt's sweaty, and there's nothing worse than some like swamp
swamp
butt.
bottom. Yep.
Okay, and back to the morgue from swamp bottom to morgue.
But it is also like I wonder what the training, like getting into the like nuts and bolts of it, which made me think of Frankenstein. Is there a connection? It goes all the way to the top. But like the training process, I mean, obviously you have to go to school. I think you have to have like I don't know, because what is it? It's forensics. It's like
Well, I feel like that's the
criminology and
study of it. I
forensics.
think you
Yeah.
probably. So I believe this person was just a tech, was not like the head mortician, because I think
Which I think is elected official, I
well,
think.
there's certain things. That's not the mortician. So that's what's the
Examiner?
coroner?
The
The
exam oh,
coroner
coroner.
is elected official. So you have different things. And a coroner is always an MD. I do know that. They are a medical doctor understanding that system. A morticianer is someone who
The Undertaker.
readies the body. Yeah. So I don't know if they have to have a medical degree
Mm.
or if they have to have like a biology degree, and you don't need a medical degree because you're not working on a live body, right? I know the coroner you have to because they're trying to understand how somebody
Cause
died.
of death, yeah, pathology.
And so I actually don't know whether our friend has worked in the morgue or at a funeral funeral home, and that's what she did, but I imagine they're probably different. So let's start there. The morgue, I think that you're intaking bodies that have definitely had something that is either suspicious or might be suspicious, right? Because if it is a normal death, say it's an 85-year-old who died in a nursing home, like of a
It's a
heart attack,
paramedic.
you're going to send it to the straight to the mortician or whoever's going to ready the body. But in the case where you want an autopsy, or they were a young person and they didn't have any history of drug, right? Like there was anything suspicious, I think that's when they go to the morgue versus the funeral home or wherever that's
Interesting.
preparing the body. And then, because I do know if you have to get it released from the morgue. If they're suspicious of a crime and then they do an autopsy and they decide it's not a crime, this person died of natural causes, then the morgue has to release it to the funeral home for them to prepare the body.
Well, I'm calling on all my academic resources like 6 Feet Under, Dexter,
Mhm.
and Law and Order
Perfect.
SVU. And
Great
I'm
choices.
thinking about like all the like like if there's like a morticianers conference or like
Mhm.
a like the kind of circles you run in of like funeral directors, morticians, coroners,
Mhm.
like that must be a fun holiday party. But
A lot of
yeah,
cold
I don't
hands.
I wonder about I guess I assumed it was like all a general funneling system, like whether your death was just like natural causes or whatever the other case
Two
may
system,
be.
and then there's a third one. So, um, my father was cremated, and so there's a crematorium
Mm.
as well.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think also, I think funeral homes can do both, but I don't think that they all do both. Another morbid story, spooky season. I guess my dad was a large man, and I guess after they cremated him and they were giving the bones back to my mom, or the ashes back to my mom, the guy goes, "Yeah, real big man. We had to burn him twice."
The man so nice they burned him
He
twice.
wasn't nice though.
Shoot,
The man
I
not so
know.
nice, they burned him twice.
Yeah, really. They were
Actually,
like,
that's
send
us
him
kind
in
of seeing a little
again.
penance, right? Like that, I kind
Yeah.
of full circle story there. But yeah, so there's the crematoria as well. So you have different things, right? So you have, and then you have graveyards, which the funeral home isn't always part of the graveyard, right? Like they don't own the graveyard. A lot of graveyards are either churches or I think city land, probably. I'm not actually. We should do a deep dive next Halloween season. We're doing graveyards.
I also now I'm curious about like because I know like for certain observant Jews, you like can't be buried in a Jewish cemetery if you have tattoos. So like I wonder if that extends to like certain practices that morticianers have to. I mean, I guess
Yeah,
I don't know. I
absolutely. You would
wonder
have
like
to, yeah, you
you have to
different
sit
religions.
shiva and you have to do
Hmm.
like certain things and
And so you'd have the same thing with like Catholics. Like if you've been divorced, you can't get married or get buried in the Catholic cemetery.
oh.
So, I mean, it depends, right? I think there are probably differences between which church you're dealing with. I'm not Catholic. I don't know a whole lot about the Catholic Church, but I assume that there's some more extreme Catholics and some less extreme
You
Catholics, just
pious
like everyone.
Jackie.
I know all of this.
I
Um,
also want to ask our, I mean, maybe our guest would totally not, this would not be in her field at all, but I'm like, I want to think about like a living will and like, how, what if I get, if I don't really want to be cremated. Well, actually, maybe more so cremated than like, I don't want to be filled with embalming fluid. Like, I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
want to become a
formaldehyde.
pollutant,
So
you
I
know?
think
If,
that's why my friend isn't doesn't do it anymore. I think she actually, because you can get allergic to formaldehyde if you're exposed to it too often. So
I mean, that seems like saying you're allergic to radium. It's like,
mhm,
yeah, we're not supposed to be around it. Like,
mhm,
it's
mhm,
toxic.
mhm.
But I
Uh,
actually do this like gave me a recovered memory of my friend. I'm a hillbilly, and her hillbilly dad. My friend also was a hillbilly, and her hillbilly dad would dip his cigarettes in embalming fluid for a
well,
fun little
cigarettes do
spice.
have formaldehyde in them. That makes it burn slower. So yeah, cigarettes are nasty. Um,
Seems
so I think
concerning.
though the morgue, okay. I want to know how you prepare the body, right? Like, I think that's super interesting. Like, there's a lot of
Yeah.
chemicals, there's a lot of pieces like that. There's
Yeah, so I
probably
think
like
your first step is
respect.
just like examining the body because you wouldn't. I would think maybe like cleaning, but it's like, oh well, if there is a cause, you don't want to like miss something under the fingernails or like there's probably like a step. Like,
So that's probably the morgue. Yeah. So you like, okay, let's bring the body through the process. Okay. I wake up tomorrow and my imaginary husband's dead, which is great because he's not real. So I wake up
perfect, you get
tomorrow,
all
my
the
imaginary
money.
husband's dead. He's 35 like me, so everyone's kind of like it's a little weird that he died at 35. So I called 911 and they come out, paramedics, all of that. They probably send the police and the coroner, I imagine. And
Hmm.
then they probably examine the body, see if anything automatically looks suspicious. And then let's ignore what the police would do here, because we could totally side on what
Yeah.
the police would do. But say they goes to the morgue because they're like, let's do an autopsy.
I have been watching a lot of X Files, so Mulder would dig the body up. They'd be
Yeah.
like, "It's not buried yet." He'd be like, "Dig it up anyway."
Um,
And then
and then they would take it. The paramedics would likely, or the morgue would take it to the morgue, right? And then I think that's when you examine the body. What do we see on the outside? Let's start removing clothes and all of that. What do we see now? What do we observe?
you got your
I
little
think
clipboard chart where you're like wedding ring, underwear, dirty,
and then
socks not matching.
Jackie's husband was a dirty boy. And then I think you start to clean it, like you were kind of mentioning before. And then you go through and you probably like wash it, and then once it's clean, the body's prepared externally. I think that's when you probably get into the external pieces and start opening up the body and exploring it that way.
I bet you iodine is involved.
Sure. I love that for you.
And then
let's say they do the autopsy, they do a drug test, they run all the blood, they run all that. Nothing
And then
comes
I
up.
bet you have to get in contact with, like, is there some sort of registry where you see if someone does have a will? Like, what
So
are
you
their
would
wishes?
then. So let's
Or
jump into the
family
will,
has
because I can
family.
answer
Wait,
this
at
really
what
quick.
point does family have to ID the body?
Well, if you were there when he died and you call, then
Oh,
you're
you
not
already
IDing
did
the
that.
body,
Okay, yeah,
right?
yeah,
So that should be fine. If he died alone in a hotel, then they would call me to come out and identify the body.
I
But when
like
it
your
comes
hypothetical husband's whole backstory.
if first off, your will, you should always, I have a will. My will is on my laptop, and my will has been shared with the executors of my will. So your executive of your will should always know that, one, they're the executor, and two, they should have a copy of it. So my brother Sean has a copy, and my friend Jessica has a copy, right? That lays out everything that I want to have happen. There is a clause in there that if I do die before my mother, I would like a glass casket and to be buried down, lowered into the ground very slowly, that she can watch it. I'm just kidding there. That's not it.
I fought that so hard. I was like, Jackie, you cold ice queen.
No, but that's what I tell my mom, that like she has to watch me be lowered slowly into the ground, like extra slow. So no, like in my will, for example, it says that I want to be cremated. I have designated all the people who get money from my will. I have even set up a clause in my will that, like, for example, you get some money. My friend Jesse gets some money. My friend Jesse also gets control.
Jackie was mysteriously murdered 5 days later.
Well, Jesse also gets control of like another chunk of money, and I have asked that be put into a foundation that Jesse manages. So like
Aww.
you can do all that stuff with your living will. It says when to take me off life support, all of that. So when that person dies, all the will and all that should be taken care of. They should already know about it. If they don't, sometimes you go through somebody's stuff and see if there's one. You can call their lawyer if they had a lawyer. Or a lot of people don't have one, right?
Or they put them in those little fridge things and they're like, we'll deal with you later.
I mean, a lot of people do that, right? Like my will is not signed legally, but like no one's going to fight it. And so I'm just like, it's good enough. These are my intentions. Everybody knows what I'm doing.
I thought wills were one of those things where it's like you can write it on a napkin and it counts.
It depends, right? Like, have you written multiple notes on multiple napkins? Right? So okay. We've digressed into wills. So anyways, you are assuming that you know what's to be done with the body. My husband died at the home. I'm figuring out the will. I'm calling the insurance company. I'm waiting for the autopsy to be finished because I need a death certificate as well. So once I have the death certificate, then I can claim him dead everywhere, do the insurance, everything else that I need to do, which is presumably probably why he died, is I had a very large insurance policy. Just kidding.
That you took out 1 week before he died.
I'm not theoretically killing my fictional husband. But then, so he's at the morgue. They've done their investigation. They've said, okay, nothing wrong happened. He had an enlarged heart and just died young, right? It's just freak accident. At that point, I think the morgue releases it to the mortuary. And then they take the body, whether it's been opened or closed or whatever, they put it back together. So if they got the body straight from the home, they do the cleaning, right? If they're
Mm-hmm.
getting it from the morgue, they're probably making sure things are put back together, like their chest and stuff.
And they check if you're an organ donor.
Yes, that
They're
they do
taking
that
all
too.
my organs. It's gonna
I
be a
hope they
closed
take mine.
casket for this
Take my
girly.
skin. And then that's when they like embalm and they do your makeup too.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
they
someone
make you
has to
all,
go to Ross Dress for Less and pick you out an outfit.
no, you pick out an outfit for your loved ones and you drop it off. Yeah. Yes, you do. That's why, like, my dad had always had a mustache, and I told my mom, like, she never saw him without one. I was like, you should have, like, made them shave his mustache just so you could have, like, seen it. But, like, you really should do what's in somebody's will. Again, I don't think that anything's left when you die, so fuck it. Do whatever you want. Like, pee on my dead body. I really don't care. Like, it really has no meaning to me once I'm gone.
I don't think so, because like the body, remember the bodies exhibit?
Where, when?
You don't remember the bodies exhibit? It was this huge controversy. I'll make this really quick. This German medical professional did this whole exhibit where it was like, just like you could go see the bodies exhibited, it would be like flesh, or maybe no flesh, just muscles, or maybe just bones. And there was like simulated sex acts. There was like this whole thing. And it was like revealed that he didn't have anyone's consent. These were all like prisoners, people who were like unhoused, who, like a pregnant woman, like all this stuff. And it's like, there's a reason there's a taboo for that. And I don't think it's respectful to do that to someone's body. But if you say it is, then yes.
I don't like that's like I would never do it to somebody else's dead body because I do think that you should respect people's wishes. I'm just saying I have no connection to my dead body and do whatever you want with it. I really take the organs,
Yeah, take my organs.
do whatever's cheapest. Honestly, don't spend a bunch of money because
don't
I'm
take
dead.
the liver, if you know
right,
what I mean.
Right. No one wants that. So I think then you have the next steps of whatever, a celebration of life, a funeral, whatever you do in your culture. I think that's the final piece.
Yeah.
I have a pretty good idea about this, but that's because I literally only like enjoyed true crime.
And you've experienced death in your family. Like, I've never even been invited to a funeral, which is honestly rude, but that is our family tradition. We spit on each other's graves and refuse to speak. That's just how we do it.
I have been to so many funerals. I've lost a lot of friends over the years. I've lost people to suicide, murder, you name it. Like, I've lost someone that way. Drug overdose. I mean, my father was an alcoholic, had a 0.69 alcohol level when he died. Like, I've seen it all.
Oh my God.
Did you not know that?
That's so much.
You didn't know that? I never
Was it acute liver failure?
No, he had a heart attack. Because you can't have that much. Yeah, he had more alcohol in his system than blood. Yeah,
God.
so like, so he's like almost 70% alcohol at that point. So pretty much he had drank 2/5 of vodka and died alone.
Yeah.
So
and then I guess my final piece to this would then be in theme with this, like, how do you keep your mental peace as a mortician? Like, how do you take an improv class? Like, how do you balance out? Do a little zip zap zap.
That's what you do. That's what you do to deal with like event planning, not working at the morgue. I feel
I said that because I met someone who was a what's the lawyer that's big in the city?
Estate planning?
The DEA or something.
Oh, DA, district attorney.
He was a district attorney, and he was like, I'm looking at homicide cases all day. I want to come, like, do some yes and.
Yeah, but I still feel like the homicide cases are still more uplifting, like, as you catch people every now and then. Like, working in the morgue, there's never a happy ending. There's not. Just no
unless you
good day.
go back to those male morticians.
Okay.
And
on that note, let's head on down to the morgue or mortuary or wherever we're going today.
Welcome back to We're Experts Now. Take 2. We had an exciting take 1 where our guest had a whole alien mask and there was almost a fainting incident. So we're going to figure out a post-production blur situation for the viewers. Listeners, I hope you enjoy our guest today, the expert code name Trench?
Because I'm living in one.
Because you're living in one. That is true. You've been living in one for a long time now.
Yeah, life is Trench. So yeah, thanks for having me on your podcast.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us about your experience in the mortuary and or morgue world? Obviously, we don't know the difference.
Yeah. So, well, you're on the right track. So, okay. So I went to mortuary school after high school.
Which is separate from the morgue.
Okay. So yes. So a mortuary is a place where bodies, like people are prepared, the remains are prepared for the funeral and subsequent like burial or cremation.
Okay.
Yes.
Remains seems like the word that we were probably missing the entire part one.
Yeah, and
It's
then
what remains.
yeah, so remains, that's obviously self-explanatory. And then when you're cremated, it's cremains.
Okay.
Whoa, is that a portmanteau? Is that like a real word?
It is.
That's so cool.
Yes. Yeah, cremated remains.
Okay, so you went to mortuary school.
Okay, so I went to mortuary school.
Dealing with remains.
Which is dealing with remains. And so that's in California. It's a 2-year program. You have to have, at least an associate's degree to get an embalmer's license. So that's really the end kind of goal of going to mortuary school is to acquire an embalmer's license. So, like I said, you have to do like this 2-year program. I think there's 2 schools in California that you can, obtain this degree from. And then you have to do an apprenticeship. So you can do an apprenticeship either like before, during, or after you go to school. And you have to embalm, I think it's a minimum of 100 cases. Yeah,
that's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah. So, and you have to do it under a licensed embalmer who, obviously is like not done anything bad or weird. Blah blah blah. So,
I'm assuming we'll circle back to that later
Okay.
on.
I mean, yes. Ideally, your supervising embalmer is not someone who likes cold hand. Like that is like not
cold hands.
Yeah. So like normal people.
Yeah.
Normal
is there normal
embalmers.
People?
Okay, yeah, we can talk about it. Okay, so the normal people. Excuse me. So yeah, normal people. So okay, I guess to go back a little bit. So I went to mortuary school and then started my apprenticeship. So I worked in funeral homes, a couple of different funeral homes, one of which also had a cemetery and a crematorium.
Oh.
So it was an all-in-one.
Yeah.
All-in-one. And it was essentially kind of like a
And they also served these great meat pies. They were just so good.
So best.
So sick.
It's for spooky season.
Yeah, really. So yeah, it was like an all-in-one, and they basically received individuals from multiple funeral homes in the area. Kind of was sort of like a central location where they would sort of do all the prep, casketing, and all of that.
Oh, because you get to package it as well, like shipping and handling.
You have to casket the remains.
And the handling is like what's the car?
The car. Oh, the hearse.
Yes.
Yes. They're they have special vehicles for the caskets for sure.
So
I did all of that.
All that.
Okay. Like in terms of like the things that I did in that role. So I did, embalming and the makeup, the dressing, all of that. I also sometimes would assist with like the funeral preparations, like meeting with the families and kind of going through like what they want, if the person had like already kind of prepaid for everything they wanted, which we could touch on that. But yeah, so did a little bit of that, and then became allergic to formaldehyde, or sort of developed like like an ongoing reaction, and so had to kind of stop doing that. But I was still going to school. It was not was like still getting my bachelor's degree at the time because I wasn't planning on doing this like forever.
This is like how some girls want to be like a hairdresser before they get their bachelor's degree. You were like, I want to work in the mortuary before.
Yeah, I mean, I was always really interested in it, and I just didn't really know what I wanted to do after high school, so just sort of felt like
the
next
obvious next
yeah
steps.
yeah it definitely felt like the obvious next step. Like when I decided to do it and I told my family, they were like, oh, well, why didn't any of us think of that before? Like that's like obviously
what you would do.
So anyway, and yeah, so we, in school I actually started out with like quite a large class, and then only I think 12 or 13 people graduated because it's kind of tough, and like I think a lot of times like people get their first, they have their first case, they're like, okay, this is maybe like not for me once they like fully start, which is understandable. I mean, I obviously didn't last forever either.
Yeah, but like I mean, you lasted significantly longer than
I lasted at least,
and it was your body that rejected the field.
True.
Do you
do
you have an ultimate goal that's totally outside of mortician?
Yes. So basically, like all of that time, I was still going to school for public health, and
okay.
So when I graduated, it was like it was 2008, like horrible, like financial crisis. Like,
oh
it was
my gosh,
really, really difficult to get a job, and I applied to so many jobs, like in my field, and a ton at the local university, and one of the finally, someone called me back about one of the roles I applied to, and I was like really excited. But it turned out to be this role that I like completely forgotten that I even had applied to, and it was like being the kind of the manager for their gross anatomy lab. So dealing with all the cadavers. So I ended up taking that job because I had no other options, and they pretty much hired me on the spot. And I actually knew the person whose role it was previously, like from way back in the mortuary school days. So it was kind of funny.
Back in mortuary school days.
Yeah. It's like all like kind of a funny full circle. And I had been out, I had been out of it for a little while. So like, and I had I had no intention of going back into the game, into the dead body game. So anyway, but I really, I needed the job. I had good benefits, and it actually paid like fairly well. So, and they use different chemicals in that process for like a cadaver, for a medical cadaver, than they do for embalming for a funeral.
So you've seen this from like multiple different sides then. But so the morgue is different. The morgue is, I mean, the morgue you could kind of have like, it could mean different things, but generally when you're saying the morgue, you're referring to the medical examiner's office. So the medical examiner, I kind of mentioned this earlier, is they're a physician, they're like a pathologist. Pathologist, thank you.
Wow.
That's what we were missing.
Yeah. And then the people under them, have a variety of degrees, not necessarily, like most of them don't even really go to mortuary school or anything like that. It's usually, they have like a biology background, or there's all sorts of things. So there's like morgue techs, coroners, medical examiner, blah blah blah. So so that's basically kind of usually what people are referring to when you're saying morgue. But
and that's like criminally, right? Like that's why, like, because that was the piece that I think we were kind of like stuck on, was like when someone passes away, they would go to the morgue if it's like suspicious circumstances.
So I guess like a morgue is basically a place generally where you would do an autopsy. Where you do embalming is usually known as a prep room. Okay. So it's kind of like, those are sort of the terms. Even though you use a lot of the same like sort of implement,
but they're two different places.
They're two different things. They're two different things. Yeah. So the morgue or the medical examiner's office usually, is like a county thing. Yeah. So the medical examiner, they usually only handle like suspicious, violent, unexplained sorts of deaths. So if it was like an older person, usually their physician just provides a death certificate with like they had cardiac arrest or whatever.
And so then the mortuary would come get the body from
Correct.
the remains.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. So
wherever
there's
he passed or
yes,
whatever.
exactly. So there's there would be like a team of, you know, a couple of people would go and pick up the person from either like the hospital or the hospital morgue. I mean, that would be like, usually we call it a morgue in that case. Or the home, wherever they, you know, wherever they passed away. Yep.
Okay, and then that's when like what you did kind of picked up. Like once they arrived at the mortuary, and then what do you do?
So if they haven't had an autopsy, you basically, you know, I think you're pretty right in terms of sort of the process. Like, you know, you put them out on the table, you undress them, you sort of clean them, and also sort of massage them, like assuming they're going to be embalmed, because you want to make sure that I know. So you want to have good circulation. Like,
That's
in the
nice.
tissues.
But
So
is
they
it
get
done?
Yeah, but you're going to be embalming them, so you're going to basically be artificially recreating circulation through the embalming machine. And you don't, like, if there's like a lot of blood clots and stuff like that, like, it makes things really difficult, right? So you have to, like, you got to kind of, like, it's just to kind of get things moving, right? Because they sometimes have been deceased
rigor
for a
mortis.
while. And this is assuming that the person is, like, you know, we're talking like best case physical condition.
Recently passed.
No, nothing.
Not
like,
a catastrophic
really
incident.
Nothing really wild
like,
going on the body.
I mean, this is gruesome, but my dad was in the apartment by himself for probably 3 days, right?
Oof.
So I imagine that's also why he was automatically cremated. So I imagine that would have been.
There's a lot of factors,
yeah.
right? Yeah. So
is the smell of death like so unique? Like, I don't know. I feel like I hear like people who clean up crime scenes and stuff are always like, they can, like, the smell of death is like, you've never smelled anything like it.
Yeah, it's very specific. Yeah.
Hopefully not in the worst conditions when it gets to you, but have you ever been walking somewhere in the world and smelled that smell?
Yeah,
and been like, I need to call 911 or like.
No, I mean, usually it's, you know, like dead animal.
Okay, so animals and humans.
I mean,
smell
there's
similar.
like there's
okay.
some. I mean, this putrefying tissue and stuff. It's all, you know. Doesn't smell great. But yeah, so okay. Anyway, so this like we're talking like best case scenario. Like, there's just not a lot happening with the body.
Right. Grandma passed at home.
Yeah. So we
found her in the morning. It was a cold day.
Yeah. So basically, you grandma's looking good. Then you want to position her, right? You want to position her arms and her facial features.
Is it going to become stiff when
because the embalming fluid will fix the tissues, so she'll kind of stay sort of in that shape. That you, yeah.
Did you ever do something fun with them?
Jackie, don't desecrate corpses.
No, not like for fun.
Request.
No,
I never was like, I want to be doing splits for eternity, like.
I mean, I have heard there's those funerals where they're like living tableaus or whatever, and they're like, oh, I don't want an open casket. I want to be like sitting in my favorite chair watching football, and that'll be like my viewing.
That's definitely, there's definitely some interesting things that are being done out there in the funeral world.
That's what I meant.
But that is not, fun, but yeah, no, I never personally had a request like that, sadly. I really wish that I had.
I'm for it. Okay, if I pass away, we're recording it now. I have said that if I die before my mom, I'd like a glass casket because I would like her to see me lowered into the ground.
Jackie.
But, do something fun with me, guys.
I do have a question about those like last rites, I guess. Like, does it ever come up that you have to look at someone's will for like religious reasons or like requests they've made, or is there pretty standard things you can just know to do?
Usually, like, I mean, the family often would, I'd maybe like meet with them for a few minutes and just they would let me know any kind of like special things.
Okay.
I mean, we really would not like do anything to like significantly alter any part of their appearance unless that was like asked for. So like, facial hair.
Like I said, I wanted my mom to shave my dad.
Yeah, so that would definitely need to be like requested, right? Because that is like the number one thing we like do not.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't want to mess with any identifying features, right?
Yeah, it's not like they can grow it back.
Yeah, like yeah,
Exactly.
by your own, you would never do that. But if someone's requests, I mean, I'm sure
No,
there's
yeah,
interesting things that people want out there.
Yeah, if I had stayed in the business longer, maybe I would have had some more interesting requests.
Okay, so you position them.
Yes, so you position them. You mix the formula that you're going to use for the person. So there's different. Excuse me. There's different compounds that you can use depending on, if potentially the person had jaundice.
Oh.
So if their tissues were yellow, you don't want to use maybe a standard fluid because that could like have some really unfortunate outcomes. You have to like use a special formula. And so yeah, you kind of like figure out like sort of what you're gonna do. The coloring too, like how much like color do you want to add?
Oh, because that's gonna come in the embalming too.
Yeah, so it's tinted. The fluid is tinted. Yeah.
Would you like pick like a fun color?
Yeah, theoretically, I think you definitely could.
You guys, I am gonna have a really different will after this conversation.
I mean, I feel like if this can turn into permanent makeup, I'm on board. I'm like, let me just inject a little colored pigment, like pre-embalm myself. I'm ready to go.
Pre-embalm? Oh no, I'm pre-embalmed. Don't worry.
I'm pre-bombed. Thank you.
Don't ever say that in the airport.
Oh, no. Don't worry, I'm not going to do it here. I pre-bombed.
I pre-bombed. Okay. Okay, so you're tenting.
Yep.
Okay.
So then you put, the chemicals into the machine, kind of mixes them up, and it like creates pressure, right? So because you have no blood pressure because the person is dead. So you make an incision, usually kind of on the neck, where you would put in a tube in the artery, and you make an incision.
Jackie knows about that.
My surgery. This is like it wasn't my neck, but it was my main artery.
You can also you can do it in different areas. So you essentially you inject the embalming fluid, you put it in through the artery, and then you drain the blood out through the vein, and essentially you're replacing the blood with the embalming fluid.
It's wild that the morgue episode and my surgery episode have so much in common, you guys. But that's okay, that makes sense because that's where your biggest arteries are, and you're going to be able to do it the fastest. Okay, and then
so while this is going on,
you smoke a cigarette at break time.
Yeah, take your gloves.
Dip it in a little formaldehyde.
Yeah, smoke some sherm. Isn't that what it's called?
What is it?
Isn't that what it's called?
What?
I mean, you said it confidently. I believed it.
When
you dip it into the embalming fluid, I think it's called sherm.
Wait, is this? I thought that was a joke. That's something.
When someone smokes embalming fluid through the method of sherm sticks, they get high, says BlueHillsRecovery.com.
Oh, I cannot.
So I don't recommend smoking. I don't recommend it. I mean, it doesn't seem like
it doesn't.
No.
Well,
we do not advocate.
Being around
People would ask me for it. They'd be like, "Can you steal me?" I'm like, "No."
Like I can report you to the authorities.
I'm gonna be real. If I'm gonna ask somebody to steal something from a medical facility, it's not embalming fluid. I'm gonna tell you right now. It's gonna be some more.
I mean, if they offer, that's one thing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's add that to the. Remember that day that we were trying to make the list of the drugs that I haven't tried?
Okay,
add that to it. I have not tried sherm.
All right, so now we've got our drained remains filled with embalming fluid.
Yeah, and so while this is kind of going on,
is it automatic or are you like manually like syringing it in?
So there's it depends. So there is a machine and it's basically pumping the fluid in, and all the while you're kind of massaging the tissues again to make sure that you get good penetration and it's all kind of like diffusing throughout the tissues. And then you can see if there's areas where it's not going, right? So you might have to do some additional massaging doesn't work, then you might have to do like some more injections. And that can be done the same way as you did the first one. You just do a different different artery and vein. Or you can, also do it with, like a syringe if you have to.
Wow.
But, or like a trachea.
And then do
That's
you like spray them
nice.
with hairspray or what's
Yeah.
the?
And then, you clean them off again and, kind of disinfect everything. Oh, and obviously sew up the incisions and
And
all
you
of
did
that.
that yourself? You did
Yeah,
the sewing?
suturing all of
Wow, there's so
the,
many different skills here. I'm like, you're
yeah.
a chiropractor, you're a masseuse, you're an esthetician. I'm like,
I know.
so
And then, well, did we even talk about setting the features? Like, you set position the
Okay.
arms, but also the facial features. You have to close the eyes, you have to close the mouth. And
I don't
that's
like
actually
it.
really difficult to make it look, kind of natural and stuff, 'cause
Yeah, and how do you know, because I feel like I always have like a one-sided smirk,
yeah.
like how do you know,
I know this would be like
Yeah, you just kind of
set
like
good.
try to go for sort of like a peaceful expression.
Peaceful.
Yeah.
Does anyone have like permanent resting bitch face? Like, do you ever like look at them and be like,
you'll never look like you're at peace.
yeah, that's gonna be me. It's gonna be me.
You're never
been
be
at peace.
like-
She's never been at peace. Yeah,
Fully angry.
eyebrows. Oh
Fully
yeah, like
angry.
angry. Oh, the eyebrows would be a hard one, I
Yeah,
imagine.
Yeah. So yeah, you kind of just try to get everything sorted before you start the, tissue fixing.
Okay.
Tissue
And
fixing. Okay.
now everything's placed, massaged.
Yeah, sutured,
Botox,
cleaned, good to go. Then normally would dress them. There's a couple of other things too that there's embalming the cavities, which usually don't get great.
I'm gonna regret asking.
We can. I wasn't gonna mention it. We can just kind of skip over it.
What's a cavity?
Like like your abdominal cavity, your thoracic cavity, and there's usually like a lot of like fluid and like gas buildup.
Yeah.
Right? So
Butt cavity.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you say butt cavity?
Yeah. So there's something that you like kind of use
Sure,
to kind of
technical term, the butt
pull
cavity.
that out.
Pull it out.
You can you
Yeah.
can kind of remove a lot
You have
of
to
it
like
and then
make people
it's like
fart.
A vacuum?
Yeah. So you want to remove the gas. You want to remove as much of the gas as possible because once you're all done, you don't want the person to like leak.
Oh, to leak. God.
I mean, that's pretty much the worst thing that could happen during a funeral service.
Oh, I mean, how many funerals did it take?
It's not called. It's called purging, and it happens a lot.
It's natural.
And it's horrible. It's horrible.
Funerals, it happens a lot.
Yeah, I mean not a lot, but like it does happen sometimes, and so you just have to really try to prevent that from happening.
I take
and there's
everything
things you
back,
can do.
Cremate me. I go with my original plan, cremation.
Just got the chills thinking about it.
Yeah, so there's different ways you try to prevent the purge from happening during the service. Because I mean, essentially, it's hard to find this balance, right? You want the person to look good and like last.
If you had been saying this to me with the alien face on, we're trying to prevent the purge.
We're trying to respectfully prevent the purge. Just fully ET mask.
I would like to just say I am laughing because I'm uncomfortable, just like I do at funerals. This is not because I find any of this funny. It's because I uncomfortable laugh, but this is, I mean, like, honestly, like, that's so right. And I think that's, like, the essence of this podcast, right? Is, like, this is interesting. Like, right? Like, the fact that that's something that you have to consider and, like, all the steps that we go through life.
And, like, we'll be in that process one day, and we'll need someone who is taking their job seriously. And,
no, I'm getting cremated after this. I don't want to purge.
Sure.
I've purged enough in this lifetime.
Yeah, purge is pretty tough.
The trench and the purge.
Yeah, there's a lot of purge in the trench.
Okay. Ooh, I gained my composure.
And then you hand it off.
Makeup then.
Yeah. So and then after all of that, and you also suture the holes where you did the purge prevention process. And then
purge prevention process.
The triple P.
Yeah,
I just
made
that
needs to be a T-shirt.
Yeah, you can add that to the textbook.
Yeah, purge prevention process.
Yeah, and then they're dressed with usually the family brings in the outfit they want to be
I want to know about the makeup though.
So
are we using normal makeup?
So there's definitely specific makeup, but yeah, there's normal makeup too.
Like, is this like a MAC? Or are we getting like high-end Tarte products?
No. I would say
Walmart.
Not high end, but sometimes the family would also bring in their own makeup.
Oh, so I could. Okay.
Oh,
So
that's
if you
good.
have like a preferred lipstick shade, or like or an eyeshadow color or something that you really liked, that
My mom has worn the same makeup forever and the same hairdo. It would be very easy for, I feel like, someone to replicate that if I gave them the items. Yeah.
She's got a signature
I mean,
look.
yeah, they basically give if you give a photo, they'll
That's helpful. Okay.
and then that's what they'll.
Were you ever given like a really old photo where like somebody was like 86 and they're like, "This is her at 45, recreated."
As close as you can get.
Right?
Yeah.
Did you ever get like really complicated questions or like requests like that?
No, I mean it was more like, not so much like trying to make somebody younger, but like if someone had an accident or like something where they were like didn't look the way that they did before, like, and that's that was how they died. Like that was always really challenging.
So, okay, this is my big question that I've been thinking about the whole time is like true crime, right? Mm-hmm. There's always like you hear about these like mysterious deaths where like it's ruled that they suffocated. Like there's one that I'm thinking of where this guy was like reaching for his shoe and like a rolled up like gym mat, and like the police said he died normally, but the family, because of the autopsy or because of the how he looked after he was taken care of, he looked like he was beaten, right? So is there is that something that like you have any like idea on why things like that happen, where it could be a total normal thing and then something just goes wrong in that embalming and cleaning up process where people could think crazy things?
Well, that's like the medical examiner, right? They're
so that would definitely be like the medical examiner. I mean, no, I mean normally once they're received at the funeral home, we don't. You sometimes don't get the death certificate until a little bit later, which can be challenging sometimes. But I mean, if they obviously had like something, you usually can tell if kind of what may have happened. But I have never been in a situation where it was like, oh, like, should we call the coroners because like
well, I mean, it's like, did you ever get a body that looked normal and then somehow process went so badly that like that's what I'm getting at, because there's those cases where they're like, oh no, something went wrong in the embalming process, and the family's like, no, something must have happened to them.
Not so much that, but I will say, so after I wasn't working in the funeral home anymore and I was working at the university in the anatomy lab, we would get every year like say 30 new cadavers for the students to use, and we would kind of do some prep before the students would come in, like in the beginning of the year, so that they kind of like got some of the gross dissection done. Like in gross, I mean like big, like removing some of the things that needed to be removed, just to make it facilitate the process for the students a little bit. And one of the pathologists would come in and we would go through each case and look at their cause of death, like whatever was on their death certificate, and kind of like do sort of like a head to toe kind of look at the body to see if there was like anything that really seemed like strange or like out of line with kind of what was on the death certificate. And we would find things sometimes that were surprising, but nothing that was like you would want to like, nothing criminal, I guess. But more just like, oh, they said that they had a heart attack, but like, look, they had like this tumor or whatever that wasn't noted, or like different things like that.
Are you still someone who enjoys true crime, or are you like, I get enough of that, I need to go do knitting class outside of work?
No, I mean, I was always interested, I guess, in true crime to an extent, but I mean, it was not really like anything that like drove me into kind of doing that work, with the deceased. But I guess as I've gotten older, I'm less interested in true crime than I used to be. I don't know why, but it's not like, read like every Anne Rule book and like kind of, used to be like really, really into it, and now I'm just like a little bit less so. But I don't think it's necessarily tied to to that work. I don't know what it is. Maybe I just have true crime fatigue.
Yeah.
That's fair. What got you into it then, though?
The mortuary stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we had like kind of a lot of death in my family. So I was, from a young age, sort of like always interested in cemeteries and sort of the process and like the science behind it. It's also kind of a helping profession, and I liked that.
Yeah.
So there were kind of a lot of factors, but I know I was always kind of like sort of a little bit of a goth.
Yeah. You got a vibe.
Yeah,
that's why I like him. I have the same vibe.
So it all
as
sort of like
witchery. Like,
it seemed like I would have like that it was going to be something that I would really like, and I did. But again, like there's it's a challenging kind of long-term career. We didn't even talk about the other people. Like I was like the most normal person.
Yeah, like
that I ever
let's
talk
about this.
Working.
Yeah, let's get it. Let's
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I'm like, who gets into this? Is it people who are like in a family business? Do they have second jobs? Because if you just drive the hearse, like it's like a weird thing to be like, oh, I also am a bouncer, and I don't know. Like, I want to know the profile of these people.
Work at a nightclub on the weekends, but on Tuesdays I drive the hearse. Yeah, like who are people?
So when I went through school, my classmates were overwhelmingly in like their kind of late 20s, 30s and older. I was the youngest one by probably 10 years. And at the time, again, it was like, the economy wasn't great. Like it was kind of a lot of the .com bust, all of that. So there's a lot of people like kind of transitioned into kind of a second career or a new career. And there were also, and I don't really, I think this may have just been like a fluke. I don't really think there's any real connection, but there were a lot of Mormons in my class.
Weird.
Like, so I've never met so many Mormon people in my life.
Yeah, I can't make that connection.
I don't know. I think it must be. Anyway, so that's the profile. But so, and there, most of the people were
vampires.
There were some interesting people, but most of them were fairly normal. And then working in the funeral home, because you had people who were had different roles, right? So the people who were, more on like the pickup crew, or transfer folks, tended to be people who loved meth.
Passionate about it. Passionate about it.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I also imagine, like, this is like, people with extreme criminal histories, right? Like, where you're not gonna get a job other places.
That's a good yes. So
also has a strong relation to loving meth.
Yeah. So if you're an embalmer, you have to do live scans. So there's like all there's a lot of that, right? There's background checks and all that. But for other roles, probably not quite the same level of scrutiny, perhaps. I'm not sure.
You're not getting the people that are the highest performers probably looking for these jobs, right? Like these are people probably, unless they have a fascination with it in some way or another,
which is potentially
good
a red flag.
or bad, right? You're probably getting people who can't get other jobs, right? Like, and that's why I was like, people with a criminal history, right?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, they were, and they said some of them were there for quite a while. I mean, they were all nice and stuff, but that was sort of the
I know a lot of nice speakers. A lot of really nice speakers. A lot of nice
and had to be on call at night, and so
yeah,
you stay up,
So anyway, no judgment. That was basically kind of
I'm judging
the role. And then I was an apprentice. Excuse me, I was an apprentice embalmer, and had a supervisor, sort of a embalmer who like I was doing my apprenticeship under, and she was like the best. I loved her.
Love that.
Yeah, the women who worked there were more normal, and then you had some strange men.
Yeah, I feel like the women would be like similar to like what you kind of described yourself as, like caretakers, but like fascinated with like the kind of darker side of life, right? Like some of my best friends are that way, right?
Yeah, I know.
The men I don't feel like are going to be as normal.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Not to stereotype anyone or
They're well
anything.
Sure. No.
Because and I wouldn't say all of them either, because there were definitely like many like normal men who I worked with in
And weird
like,
ladies.
homes. And
Listen,
weird ladies.
I work with a lot of weird men in my current position, right?
Yes.
Like this is like it is.
Wait, I want to hear about this weird lady. I feel like there's a weird lady story coming.
Well, you just jogged my memory. But I would say the weirdest, the weirdest person was a woman. I think that I ever, over the course of that, she was just very, very strange.
Personality or strange with the bodies?
More just personality. Okay. More just personality. No one was really strange with the bodies. People over the course of my time were, pretty, good with all of that. Very respectful.
That's good. That's what
you kind of go into it like you want to treat every person that you're, every deceased person is like someone in your family.
Yeah.
Or one of your loved ones. So most people try to take that.
Were there any vampires? And I don't mean like I believe in vampires, but like the people who identify as vampires. This is the time. What about anyone who believed in zombies?
Okay, so zombies were a concern. Yes. At least for me personally. I don't know.
Okay,
yeah, so scary. Scary. So, well, if you look around, there's no people who believe in zombies. You might be the person who believes in zombies.
Well, the room where we had the anatomy lab was a very secure room on a very high floor. And I would one day I was kind of like thinking to myself, I'm like, if there was ever like a zombie apocalypse, like this is a great room to be in. But then I turned and I looked and realized that this actually is probably the worst place.
The worst place to be.
The worst place to be.
Well, actually,
just lock those little fridges.
It depends on how it's all transmitted.
I mean, there's virus zombies, right? Then that means you're actually the safest there. If it's undead zombies, then
there's a lot of I know there's a lot of nuances to this, but so
this will be our part 2 with the trench.
That does make me think though, okay, I've seen in movies and TV, there's like a body in a little fridge, a pull-out fridge. What's that about? Why are they in there?
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways of storing remains. So that's like a big fridge or cooling thing. Usually we would just there's racks that you have, and then they roll in and out of walk-in.
Like a pastry rack, yeah.
Yeah, but much bigger. Yeah, much bigger.
And that's just because maybe there's a waiting queue of I got to get to this person first. Let me pop this guy in the freezer.
Really ordered in strategically. Yeah, you got to be strategic about your space because,
it's like when they bury them on top of each other. Got to do that in the right order.
How much is that happening? I don't know about.
Well, no, that's what they used to do. Is stack them. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you still do that if you want to be buried with your family members.
Don't. Okay. After this episode, it's been decided. Cremation.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
You're like, after this job, I choose cremation.
Or I mean, if you donate your body to science, that's kind of where the cadavers come from.
You can have me for that. I don't care what you do with my body after I die.
Yeah.
I only want to be donated to science if I can be the skeleton in a teacher's classroom that they wheel out, because then I'm the star.
That is the most Bex thing I have ever heard of putting requirements on how you want to be donated to science.
And if they want to study my brain.
High peak specimen.
Mine, they're gonna be like, oh god, that's wrong.
Never seen a brain this smooth.
Using that.
They're gonna use it as a worst case scenario.
Yeah, Bex will be best case scenario, mine will be worst case scenario. And this is where it goes wrong.
This is the Swiss cheese brain.
And this is what your brain looks like on drugs. I'm the meth person. It's me.
Okay, so what steps are we missing here before Jackie and I try to?
Okay, so I don't know what other steps. I mean, and then the person proceeds to the funeral, and then of course depending on the situation, the process is different. But that's kind of the
okay.
Without going into the gory.
Yeah, I think we've handled as much gore as I can.
And then the process is very much the same for preserving a person for a cadaver, for teaching purposes. ashes or whatever.
Okay.
So the process is similar. It's different chemicals, and you use a lot more of it. So you really,
you really want it to
you really want to make
stay
sure
fresh.
that you're getting it in there. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then you also don't really disturb the, the tissues and the organs as much because you want them to be intact for dissection and all of that.
Get
so
ready.
there's
Yeah,
different
fun
there's
stuff.
different things of doing, preparing cadavers and parts of cadavers for all of that.
What about cremains? I assume it's just a much shorter process then.
Yeah, I mean, so you can either go like direct to cremation, DTC.
Do you like leave the clothes on and everything?
No, no.
Oh,
And you don't want to. You also have to remove any metal.
Yeah.
Or any or not so much metal, but like battery, like pacemakers, things like that, because
I hadn't thought about
they'll have to
that.
remove my stent before they.
I don't think so, but like anything that could explode,
Yeah.
could when it gets really really hot, obviously. So,
And are you the same person doing that, or is it someone else?
There's a separate. There's actually a whole license for that specifically.
Oh, okay.
To do the cremation or to prepare the person for cremation?
To do the cremation, yeah. The preparing the person is usually done by the embalmer or one of the
So they're like, there's like
get certified to be a human
body.
chef. What?
Slice and dice. Yeah. Okay. What else can you do with a dead body? Ever seen a Viking funeral?
Ooh.
Where they
build a pyre.
Well, or no, and then you set it on fire.
There's the pyre, or you can send them out to sea.
Oh, one or the other. So similar.
Either way, you light it on fire.
Either way, gotta light that body on fire.
Some is if you're not close to the ocean, then you build a pyre.
Oh,
nice.
And if it's the man that died, you got to send his wife out with his body. We don't need her anymore. Go.
Throw me on the pyre. If I don't actually have a man, so I guess we'll be burning me at the stake in Salem. So that's
that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, it's fall. Okay. Anything else with preparing the remains that we should know
about? I wouldn't recommend it for a career.
Okay.
I mean, I guess
it's a good angle. Helpful.
Good takeaway.
Why?
Message. It's very hard on the body.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say it pays great either for the kind of physical.
Is it the chemical
labor?
That's on your body?
It's the chemicals. It's also like you're lifting. You're kind of. I mean, it's
dead
weight.
Dead weight.
Very much so. Very much so. I mean, there's also there's things that you can use to help move people and all of that, but like it's at the end of the day, I'm not that buff.
Yeah,
and
you're little.
Constantly annoying people to help me do things that I should be able to do by myself.
Mr. Jones.
Yeah, and people are like, okay.
Did you use their names? Like, were you like Frank? Like, let's go get Frank, or like their last name, or did you say like body
the remains?
We say like Mr. So and So usually, and that's if you're like talking to them.
Did you ever give them nicknames when you talk to them? I guess you'd kind of have to. Don't mind me. I'm gonna move this over here.
Yeah, Mr. Jones we're
gonna start the process
take care
now.
Of you today. Like
Aww.
Do you believe that they could hear you and stuff?
No, but it's a little bit better than talking to myself too.
Yeah. I mean, talking to yourself while with a dead body is definitely more weird than talking to the dead body.
Yeah,
I agree. That's the line. That's the line between sanity and.
And also, I would be like, just in case it happens, like if the zombie apocalypse does happen, like in the next,
4 minutes,
hour, 2 hours, like please spare me.
Yeah. Listen, I got you.
I'm helping you.
Now get me. Okay.
So.
Yeah. So, did you ever get towards the end of the process and felt like you needed to hurry? Like when you're running upstairs and you get that feeling and you run faster. Like, did you ever get towards the end of the process? Oh my god, I think they might pick up and go quicker.
Okay.
Really quick.
Okay. Also, was there any times that you were really there was something that happened and you were like, my lunch moved?
Well, I did work at one point in a very scary funeral home. It was very, very scary. The building I was was very old. It had a lot of like empty rooms. It had a prep room that they like didn't use anymore, so it had like all of the old antique like stuff in there, but like no one goes in there. It just was really, really kind of creepy. And I would sometimes have to work there by myself on the weekends, and I really didn't enjoy it very much. I mean, it was just, you would hear noises, and like at one point we had a room, we had like a room of stuff, and like this big like pile of things like fell over, and it's like, what caused it to fall over? I mean, probably like whatever, but like there was no clear reason why it would have fallen over. I didn't see any ghosts.
Trench, this is the time to be honest. Okay.
There were no ghosts, but definitely tweakers who would come in the back door, which I think was worse.
Okay, was this when you were in Sacramento? No. Okay, I was like, if it's Sacramento, I wonder.
No,
if
they're
it was
everywhere.
My brother.
They're everywhere.
I was just, it would have been great if it was my brother.
Yeah, but I mean, I just feel like that, and they weren't people who worked there, to be clear. It would be like other people. But yeah, if that's
tweakers who were just like, let's go hit up the mortuary.
Yeah, they like there's like they come in and they try to see what's around. They steal stuff
they
or like
from a dead body
or
like,
whatever.
Bad,
I mean, we would definitely, they wouldn't have access to her, but like they would go in there and do their thing.
I love that I keep thinking that there's going to be a ghost story, and you're like, well, meh.
Yeah.
So
it's usually meth.
This might start to explain all ghost stories, right? Like maybe there are no ghosts, there's just meth.
You're seeing things. It's called meth-induced psychosis.
Okay.
That's what it is.
I'm gonna stop poking for ghost stories because I'm not getting the answers I want.
A lot of really weird and creepy experiences, but I have to say, like, I never saw a ghost.
Okay.
But like, you just the bad feeling that there's like something around,
or like something watching you.
Yes, all the time. But that could also be the meth.
Yeah.
That you were doing.
That you were doing, yeah.
She was like, "This is the beginning of my career." Now
I'm one of them finally.
now I'm really part of it. Yeah,
fully in the
you
industry.
got methed in.
I got methed.
All right. Well, are we ready to put it in a can and read its last rites?
Yeah, put it in our pipe and
put it in a casket, dip it in some embalming fluid, and smoke it.
We're gonna schmake it.
We're gonna
Sherm.
Okay.
We're Sherman.
We're Sherman. The name Sherman means so much more now. We didn't ask this at the top, but do you want to score us for part 1?
Is this like score us on
a scale 1 to 10 on how well we think we understood it? Or guessed it?
I mean, probably like an 8 or 9. I mean, I feel like you guys like have the general process down.
Now, if we just do a little meth, we'll be at a 10.
Yeah. That's all it's gonna take.
That's the difference between a 9 and a 10.
I think you guys are pretty spot on, bro.
Okay, so let's see if we can slightly improve our score. You start off with a dead body. That's what.
I mean, your only minuses were like you just didn't know the difference between like a funeral home or what were you calling it, like a morticianer?
Yeah, that's not a real word. It's just a mortician, right?
Or an embalmer, yeah.
Embalmer.
I like morticianer though.
Maybe I was thinking morticia.
Yeah, mortician.
Yeah.
Morticianer. Yeah, you guys basically had it. You are actually experts and geniuses.
Okay. You start off with a dead body.
Well, you start off with mortuary school, and that's where they give you the dead bodies.
Yeah, you got to start. At some point, you got to do that.
You got to start off with mortuary school.
You do 100 before you get your embalmer's license. I thought that was crazy.
Yeah, you have your apprentice license. Yeah, and then 100. Yep.
And you apprentice. Well, and then you get your dead body, which might come from the morgue, or it might come from Grandma's house where she passed away in the night. And
but don't bring your own, okay? Don't bring your own.
Not to work. And you're hoping for best case scenario where it's been recent and there's been no accidents. And they hopefully look similar to the way they normally do.
Yeah, you don't want to have to put any sculpty clay on there and, patch a new nose.
If they could fix mine, that would be great. Post, I would love that. Then
fix it in post.
Yeah, right.
Post
Fully
life.
cleaning.
Yeah.
And then you prepare the body of like cleaning and taking away
Yeah.
any clothing that is in the way or whatever. And then
Drain it. Drain
you
it and
cut it
purge it.
open. You put in the same thing, the catheter that they put in for my surgeries, and then you drain and replace with some chemicals that you mixed up, and
Those lovely compounds. Oh, and then the
some
little injections.
some tenting, yeah, and some fixing. And oh, we forgot the massaging. You have to
Oh,
massage.
right.
Yeah, there's a lot of that kind of throughout the process. Yeah.
Okay, you know what? Mortician masseuse, right?
Yeah.
Like now there's a
Yeah, if you're a
Right,
masseuse
there's a
looking
lot
for
of
a new
roles.
career,
mm-hmm.
or if you're a
This
mortician looking for a new career, you're
actually
like, I've massaged a lot of dead bodies.
I never got
this
any
is
complaints.
this is so weird with like
No complaints.
Warren.
A track record of no complaints ever.
My Yelp. Then you dress them and make up
Mhm.
the. Oh no, you place them before
Right.
the
You
body's
pose them.
on.
You
I
pose
like
them
how
like your
I
little
moved
Barbie dolls.
and then you do their face so that they look like they're resting. Did anyone ever want their eyes open?
That's creepy.
Oh my god. I mean, you probably
Those
could
little
do it like,
shriveled balls.
I was gonna say, well, if they had like a glass eye, you'd probably
Yes.
happen.
Yeah.
But
Oh, because the eyes shrivel.
they're not in. They don't look great.
Ew, I could have
they're
gone my
just-
whole life not knowing that your eyes shriveled.
I mean,
Ew. Well, okay. Well, you know what?
Well, we have to
All right.
face some uncomfortable truths in this
Yep, that was it.
business.
I cannot wait.
Anything
to
with
edit
water in it, oh, is
Okay, and then you
leaking.
want to prevent a purge, a funeral purge, so you have sewn
prevent the
everything
leak.
back up tight.
yeah, you try to, any orifices have been sealed.
I love a sealed orifice. That's a great sentence. That should be a metal band. Sealed orifice.
Ew.
Cradle of Filth is a metal band. You
I
think that's better
mean-
than sealed orifice?
Yes.
Okay, so then you have a funeral, or
not,
or not,
Or not.
or like cremation.
yeah, and then
Call it a day.
call it a day.
Call it a life.
And you've helped the circle of life and your fellow man.
Close the circle of life.
And then you burn out and you never look back and you do something else.
After you've done too much Sherman. You've been Sherman it good. And you try to avoid meth.
It's a lot of things
Ain't
to
that
duck
the
and dodge.
truth?
A lot of ducking and dodging. The meth, the aldehyde, the Sherm game. The dealing of
Zombies.
That could be a good side
Zombies.
gig, though. Oh, and the zombies. Yeah, you have to always have those.
I want you
Cordyceps.
Zombie. What is
Yeah.
cordyceps?
That's the mushroom villain in The Last of Us, but it's just kind of mushroom.
Okay.
Fungus is a big villain in a lot
I
of
was
Apocalypse.
thinking of forceps.
Well, I'm sure that's applicable. Also, I said that there would be iodine involved. I don't know if iodine was involved in this process.
Not really iodine, but
It felt
definitely
like something I saw
disinfectant.
on TV.
That's what they used on me in
Yeah.
surgery because they were clean. That they.
Oh, that's just a medical
Yeah,
cleaning
because
thing,
it's-
right? Okay.
Yeah, because it's once you're gone,
You
you
don't
don't,
need to
really
clean.
need to worry about infection so much. But you do want to be, so you do. There's like a disinfecting process, but not really.
You could cut some corners, though.
All right, and okay, I think we did it. I think we.
Well,
I would
thank you
ask
for your services. I wish you the best in, maybe your next customer service role, something involving the living, public health.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, she's really helping the living now. All right. Well, Trench, thank you for being here. Normally we would ask if there's something that you want to plug, but I'm assuming just being good and awesome in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Be a good person, and don't go to school to become an embalmer. Okay,
I'm definitely
Someone
not,
has
so.
to.
Someone has to, but doesn't have to be you.
All right, let's go not be embalmers.
That was great. And that was the show. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we hope you stay curious.
If you enjoyed this video, watch our other videos here on YouTube, or you should listen to the episode on We're Experts Now podcast. Bex, where can they find us?
You can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeart Music.
And what if they want to talk to us?
If you have ideas for something you want us to investigate, send us an email at we'reexpertspod@gmail.com. That's wereexpertspod@gmail.com.
Great job on that spelling.
Ooh.
A plus. Do you do this professionally?
I believe we're both doing it professionally right now.
Wow, people should know about this.
I completely agree. And you can find us on Instagram at We're Experts Now Pod.
Thanks again. And if you enjoy the show, subscribe and comment, and do not forget to leave a 5-star tip.
That's a great idea. Are you a podcast expert?
I think we both are. I think
We're
we're
experts
experts
now.
now.
This has been a Just Being Better Media production.